It's April 18th, 2018. My name is Bill McCamley. I am a New Mexico State Representative from Las Cruces and Mesilla. I'm actually also a candidate for New Mexico State Auditor this year. So I wanted to talk with you a little bit today about testing. So the major test that New Mexico uses across the high school curriculum, the PARCC, P-A-R-C-C, the Readiness for College and Career test is going on right now, and this has been a fairly ubiquitous thing in the state for the last couple of years. So when Susana Martinez was elected in 2010, she hired a lady to be Secretary of Education named Hannah Scandera, who really put in this very, very test-heavy policy in New Mexico. Now, she came from Florida, where this was a real consistent thing, and the reason was they said that, well, teachers need to be held accountable and students need to know how they're doing, so we're going to put all these tests in. But it's been very controversial for a number of reasons, and there's been groups of students, parents, and teachers that are really concerned about this. So when I was actually working on a bill to limit the amount of testing as a state representative a few years ago, I talked with some teachers and asked them how many days during the year are affected by these tests, because if you test more, it means you can teach less, right? So I actually had a high school teacher from West Las Vegas who told me 26 days of the year were taken up by testing, and I had a elementary school music teacher in Albuquerque who said that I believe it was 73 days was actually taken up by testing. So you're talking about a lot of time that teachers used to have to teach, they now have to set aside for the tests. Secondly, teachers are really concerned about hooking pay up to testing. This has been something that the governor's tried to do as well, and there's a couple of things that have been an issue with that. First off, I had a friend of mine who was a teacher over at one of the middle schools here, a math and theater teacher in Las Cruces, and she basically said, this is really stressful on all of us. We end up teaching to the test, so a lot of times we might be actually wanting to talk about broader issues, but we're so concerned about the test questions and their answers that we just drill in that these kids to memorize the answers so they can regurgitate them on the test. And the fact that she said, frankly, a lot of times this isn't fair. She said that my kids, remember she taught 8th grade, are concerned about making out and playing video games. And she actually had some pretty good test scores, but she said other teachers have it really hard with different kind of classes, and judging them based on student test scores, especially when you're not looking at improvement, is really unfair. That's especially the case for special ed teachers. Now remember, they get kids that are having learning disabilities and behavioral disabilities and all sorts of other issues. They're actually judged at the exact same level as non-special ed teachers, so that's a real issue. Students are really concerned about this. At Mayfield High School, my alma mater, there was an Enlace group there who did a survey of the students, and they found that, 79% of the over 400 students that they surveyed a couple years ago say were overwhelmed or very, very stressed out by the pressure that the schools were putting on these tests. And parents are real concerned about this too. A couple years ago, there was actually a lot of parents that opted their kids out of taking a lot of these tests. And when I was going door to door running for state representative, there was a lot of this going on with parents. And so what do we do about this? Well, I'm running for state auditor, and there's two very, very important types of issues that I can deal with as auditor. Remember, the auditor's job is to say, how are we using our money most efficiently and effectively? So first we can look at the test itself. Is the PARCC test the best use of our money? We pay about $6.2 million out of our state coffers for that every year. We're one of a very small number of states that use this PARCC test. Other states use different tests, and one of the reasons that people seem suspicious of that is Hannah Scandera, the former Secretary of Education, was actually on the PARCC board when she made the decision to bring the PARCC test here. So we should look and see, is that the best bang for our buck for our money? And for a broader issue with testing, we should say, is the amount of tests that we do in our schools really worth the money that we're spending on them? Does the benefit to the students and then the taxpayer actually make it worth the money we're spending on them? The second is a much broader issue, and that regards teacher pay. If we hook up pay to the testing that's going on, other states don't do this, do we suffer the ability to recruit and retain good teachers? So New Mexico has a lot of absences in really needed areas of teaching. So they need more teachers in STEM, they need more teachers in dual language bilingual programs, especially with Spanish, and they really need more special ed teachers. And as I talked about earlier, if you're testing and using that test to make sure that teachers are paid based on the test, for special ed teachers, when they're really not in the same situation as other folks, does that hurt our ability to get teachers to come here? We have low pay, and when you combine this, does it hurt our ability to recruit and retain the amount of teachers that we need to have, and how does that hurt us moving forward? So these are some of the things that I can work on as state auditor. As always, I would love to answer any questions or comments you have on these or any other issues, and I hope everyone's having a really wonderful Wednesday. Thanks.